if you would agree with this, but I think it's true. Having a good boss can make a huge difference to your happiness and your productivity. But what if your boss is a narcissist? You or someone you know might be off work right now on stress leave because your boss is so intense that you just can't deal with it. Or maybe you're thinking of quitting your job because you can't stand your manager. Stick around. I'm talking about that in just a moment.
Get into the water.
Start your day the right way.
Because summer's on its way.
With Rick Goddard.
Joe Goldfinch, what are the rewards of surfing?
Most people really just like being in the water. It's that connection to nature. There's nothing quite like catching a wave, of that feeling of power and where you're inside the actual wave and you get this period of soundlessness because you're just encapsulated in the ocean.
Rick Goddard.
You're just in wonder.
Monday to Thursday from 5:30am on ABC Radio Hobart.
You're with Kylie Baxter on ABC Radio Hobart.
If you're sick of dealing with a shocking manager and you've been wondering if your boss might actually be a psychopath, well, chances are they probably are. Now, don't crash your car. I'm not talking about you or your boss. But then again, I might be. Joining me now is Human Resources and Leadership Specialist Karen Gately. Welcome to Drive, Karen.
Thank you.
So can you explain, to start with, exactly what a narcissist is and what are their personality traits?
Well, I think the simplest way to describe them is that they're supremely self-centered and very much focused on themselves, but also have an inflated sense of themselves. So really are overconfident and, believe in themselves and believe in many instances that they are perfect, if I can put it that simply.
But are they also kind of mean? I think about a narcissistic boss and, there's references to, sociopaths, psychopaths. They have ways of behaving. Is that something that would be deemed a narcissistic boss?
Yeah, look, and I think where that comes from is because they are so self-centered and therefore self-serving, often they lack empathy or they lack the ability to make decisions that are in, the broader interest of other people. So that selfishness really is what drives a lot of those behaviours.
And if somebody was listening right now and they were in fact the definition of a narcissistic boss, would they even recognise it? Is that one of the traits?
Yeah, and that's the big issue right there, is the answer to that is absolutely not. Because again, as I was saying before, they do have this unwavering belief in themselves and are very low in self-awareness and very unlikely to be willing to hear constructive feedback or, to change their own mind because of other people's feedback. So they'd be listening to us thinking that this is the opposite of who they are.
And it must be really strange if someone is actually an HR manager and you're involved in HR and you're a leadership specialist. But what if the HR manager at a company was the narcissist?
Well, yes.
That would be problematic because there's nowhere to go.
And look, again, there's a broad spectrum of how people behave in the workplace, but absolutely that can happen. Just because somebody's in an HR profession or a leadership role doesn't mean that they have a helpful mindset, doesn't mean they're emotionally intelligent, doesn't mean they're able to be self-aware, build strong, effective relationships with other people. So, again, it can be difficult at times to differentiate between what is a narcissist and what is somebody who's just holding up a confident barrier because they actually lack confidence. So sometimes when people are insecure, they'll overcompromise or overcorrect and come across as though they're arrogant, whereas narcissists truly believe that they are great and are very difficult to question.
Now, what percentage of senior managers have what you've described in a study as psychopathic tendencies by your estimations?
Well, to be clear, it's not my research, but there is research that's been done consistently over the years around this space, and they predict that something along the lines of 29% of leaders who have gotten ahead in their careers are somewhere on the spectrum that we're talking about here. So depending on what research you read, there is a heavy weighting towards people who are self-focused, who are willing to sacrifice the needs and well-being of other people in order to advance, in order to get ahead.
And as an HR and leadership specialist, have you ever personally experienced a narcissistic boss or come across this in your work life?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I spend a lot of time coaching leaders at various stages of their careers. Thankfully, I do think it is rare to meet somebody who can't be helped. So often, as I was describing before, the behaviour really is a reflection of an insecurity, so a lack of self-confidence that causes people to behave in arrogant or aggressive ways. And that you can work with, you know, that you can help them to see the truth about the way that they're thinking, the way they're feeling, how they're behaving, and what that means for their influence and their impact. But I can absolutely think of people that did not believe that they needed to be better. They absolutely were very comfortable with who they are and how they operate, and were very quick to actually see the issue as being somebody else's. You know, so if challenged, we're very comfortable in thinking, well, I'm not the problem, you are.
If anyone's just joined the conversation, my guest on the program is Karen Gately, who is an HR and leadership specialist, and we're talking about narcissistic bosses. If you'd like to join the conversation, keeping in mind we don't want to name and shame specific people, we can't do that. But if you do want to send a text, share anything, ask any questions, 0438 922 936. So do you often have people coming to you job hunting because they can't stand their boss?
Yeah, that's again one of the most common things that we encounter is people are leaving an organisation because of the quality of the relationships that they have in that organisation, and a big part of that is the quality of their relationship with their boss. So, you know, we're not a recruitment firm per se, but we observe that all the time, where people are unhappy, they're not engaged, they're wanting to be somewhere else, and it's their ability to trust and respect the person that they work with every day, in this case their boss, that's the biggest issue. So I think, you know, that character of a leader can have a profound impact on the extent to which people are engaged, the extent to which they're performing, ultimately the extent to which they want to stay.
And what advice do you have? So for people who, you know, constantly get passed over for promotion due to either not being noticed or, as the narcissist might say, they lack vision, what advice would you have to those people when they're dealing with this situation?
Well, I think that the lesson that we can all take from a narcissist is the reason that they typically get ahead is because they do actually have self-belief. So therefore, when they see an opportunity, they don't hesitate to put their hand up. They don't hesitate to actually step forward. Again, because of that belief, they'll give things a go. You know, so they will absolutely give things a try. They may not be aware and therefore may take higher risks, but at least they're actually stepping into the ring, if you like. So, you know, it's absolutely essential. If you want to get ahead, then you've got to speak up. You've got to actually put your hand up for those opportunities and step forward.
And what about avoiding these personality types? Has it become easier in the work from home COVID era where so many meetings might be on Skype or Teams, and people can actually choose just to stay home if they feel like it because COVID's almost permitted that?
Yeah, you know, again, it's going to have an interesting impact on this kind of personality. So on the one hand, if you're in Zoom calls, these kinds of personalities will dominate the conversation. So it can be harder to actually be heard. It can be harder to make sure that you have visibility as well. So if this is your boss that we're talking about, you know, you have to make sure that you're creating the space and the time to have direct conversations with them that, you know, where you're able to not necessarily go to war or go to battle with their ego, but you're able to influence them. Because again, just in a Zoom team forum, that can be incredibly challenging. If the narcissist is your peer, then again, you might need to make sure that people can see what it is that you're contributing, so they're not necessarily just stealing the limelight.
And just finally, you know, all that failing, someone's, you know, at their wit's end and they really don't know where to go with it, or maybe just don't have the energy to fight, they're not that kind of person, is another option an employment lawyer?
Yes, I think absolutely. If we are being impacted in terms of our mental health and our well-being, so if the narcissist is also being a bully or is leading to cases of discrimination, then absolutely go and get the advice that you need, but also seriously contemplate whether or not it's the right environment for you. So especially if you're working in a business where the narcissist is the business owner or is the managing director, if you don't believe that they are able to change, then don't hit your head against the brick wall. It might be time to vote with your feet and get a job that's healthy for you.
Well, Karen, been great having a chat with you today on Drive. We're not far away from news time, but thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Karen Gately is HR and Leadership Specialist with Founder, and she was talking about narcissistic bosses and what to do if you're stuck with that.